A good late afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Holly and you're watching 𝐊𝐶 TV live from Sydney. This is the last show of the day, the last trade, and there's no better way to wind down the day and the week than with today's market close commentary. In today's show, we're looking at the overall ASX 200 performance of the day and also exploring the gainers and losers. Then we'll be looking at the details of companies that are in the news today like Cimit Group, hotel property investments, Vulcan Energy and much more. We'll also be looking at how newly listed stocks like heavy minerals performed on the ASX today, as well as trending updates from the Asian markets in the last segment, along with a special report on cryptocurrencies. So let's dive straight in. Now, the Australian share market ended higher for the second straight session today on dovish comments from Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe. The market staged a smart recovery in the afternoon trade as investors cheered Lowe's comments that the central bank would not hike interest rates until the year 2024. The promise to maintain the cash rate at a record low of 0.1% helped the market reverse earlier losses. And the benchmark index ASX 200 ended 0.16% higher, as early today the index opened lower and dropped as much as 0.5%, led by a sell-off in tech and industrial companies. The market sentiment was also lifted after a report from NAB revealed that business confidence improved slightly in the month of August. The data showed that the business confidence in Australia increased to -5 points in August from -8 points in July of 2021, boosted by a pickup in vaccine rollout. The market width indicating the overall strength was positive, with 6 of 11 sectors closing in the positive terrain. The energy sector was the best performer with a 4.2% gain, followed by utilities, which surged 1.2%. Among others, AREIT, financials and also materials settled in green with decent gains. Meanwhile, the industrial sector emerged as the worst performer with over 1% in losses. This was followed by healthcare, tech, consumer staples and consumer discretionary, which also witnessed a surge in selling activities. The energy sector expanded the rally for the third straight session on a rising crude oil price, and index heavyweights Woodside Petroleum, Santos, Oil Search, Worley as well ended higher. The materials sector also continued its gaining streak for a second day despite a continued fall in iron ore prices. Heavyweights BHP Group and Rio Tinto ended higher, while Fortescue Metals Group closed lower. Then in the banking space, all four big lenders, that is Westpac, ANZ, Commonwealth and NAB, settled in the positive terrain. Looking at the top gainers and losers of the day now, and energy company Beach Energy topped the gainers list by rising a whopping 7.5%. This was followed by Altium, oil and gas producer Woodside, gold miners Chalice Mining and Gold Road Resources. On the losing side though, pooling solutions company Brambles emerged as the top laggard with a 9% loss. Some of the other notable losers were internet service provider Unity Group, Cleanaway Waste Management, healthcare firm Fisher & Paykel, and engineering services provider Monadelphous Group. Now let's take a short break, but stay tuned because I'll be right back with more of the stocks that grabbed attention today.
Tune in to get the latest information.
Whether it's about market movements or the currency graph,
Sectoral coverage or industry news.
we cover it all on our news segments.
Be on top of the latest news
With 𝐊𝐶 TV. Welcome back to the market closing commentary. Let's shift our lens now to the stocks that grabbed investor attention today. Well, first up, in mineral sands player Heavy Minerals made a weak debut on the domestic exchange today, falling 12.5% in the opening deals. The stock price dropped to 17.5 cents against an issue price of 20 cents, as the industrial minerals company made a debut on the ASX after successfully raising $5.5 million in its initial public offerings. The IPO garnered strong support from institutional and high net worth investors, as it issued 27.5 million shares at an offer price of 20 cents per share. Incorporated in February this year, the company is set to commence maiden air core drilling campaigns at the Port Gregory Gamut project in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, shares of CIMIC Group dropped as much as 0.7% by the mid-session, pairing early gains, even after a group company secured a contract extension. The group's engineering firm UGL, as a member of the Rail Connect New South Wales joint venture, has won $100 million in contract extensions from the Transport for New South Wales. The next up, shares of hotel property investments entered a trading halt, pending an announcement. The company that owns a portfolio of freehold properties has signed a pact to acquire the Edwardes Lake Hotel for $28 million. Adding to it, the company is in advanced stages of a second acquisition subject to final contract approvals, which are expected to be acquired for $7.9 million. The company plans to undertake a fully underwritten institutional placement to raise $50 million to partially fund the acquisitions and associated transaction costs in conjunction with existing debt facilities. And meanwhile, another company that entered the trading halt is lithium explorer Vulcan Energy. The company plans to raise $200 million at $13.5 a share via placements. In addition to the placement, Vulcan extends its offer-eligible existing shareholders the opportunity to participate in a non-underwritten share purchase plan to raise up to a further $20 million. The company intends to use raised capital to accelerate exploration initiatives and expand its dual renewable energy and lithium development strategy. Next up, MAS Group shares rose 2.6% in the intraday trade after construction materials and service provider unveiled an acquisition plan. The company has signed an agreement for the acquisition of an additional quarry in central Queensland. The acquisition is subject to customary completion conditions, and the transaction is expected to be completed in October of this year. It'll enable them to realize synergies within the Central Queensland construction materials business. And next up, shares of Xeralto climbed nearly 2% after it unveiled a plan to acquire an e-commerce firm, 𝐊𝐴𝐴 Technology. The company inked a share sale agreement to acquire a 100% stake in 𝐊𝐴𝐴, with an expected completion date of the 30th of September this year. 𝐊𝐴𝐴 is a multilingual, multi-tenanted e-commerce platform that will complete and complement Xeralto's retail intellectual property and enable improvements in its go-to-market strategy with direct-to-market brands, retailers, and retail service providers. Meanwhile, Dreadnought Resource shares surged over 8% after it raised $8 million via placements. The shares were issued at 3.5 cents at 5.5% discount to its last closing price. The placement funds will be used to build on recent successes at the Tarraji Yampi, Mangaroon and Illawarra projects. Now it's time for another short break, but stay tuned as I'll be right back with more stocks that grabbed attention today. Tune in to stay updated while on the move.
We will tell you where the crypto craze has reached,
Where the property market is headed next.
what the world is doing to become more environmentally friendly.
Apart from tracking the daily market charter.
Be on top of the latest news and announcements
With 𝐊𝐴𝐴 TV. Welcome back to the market closing commentary. You're watching The Last Trade. Shares of Bathurst Resources jumped over 18% in the intraday trading after a New Zealand-based company upgraded its earnings guidance. The coal miner had raised EBITDA guidance from $65 million to $95 million, citing the recent significant rise in hard coaling prices. This was also supported by the release of an updated investor presentation post financial year 21 and results. Meanwhile, shares of Rhythm Biosciences gained as much as 8.6% after the Therapeutic Goods Administration accepted its manufacturer's evidence documentation. The medical diagnostics tech developer said this documentation is required for approval in Australia for Colo-Stat and completes the first step for regulatory approval in Australia. And the last stock on the list, shares of Macmahon Holdings rallied over 9% after the mining services company announced a positive business update. The company has finalised a $210 million mining services contract with Calidus Resources for the Warrawoona Gold Project in WA. This contract involves the development of a new open-cut mine in the Pilbara region, and the scope of work for Macmahon expected to include all open-cut mining activities until December of the year 2026. This contract is in addition to the early-stage civil works Macmahon is currently undertaking on the site with 65 personnel. The company expects the main mining equipment to arrive on site in the first quarter of next year, with the project to eventually employ around 120 people. Moving on to the last segment now, let's have a look east towards the Asian market performance. While shares in the Asia-Pacific region were trading mostly higher following positive cues from Wall Street, which ended higher in the overnight trades. Investors remained focused on US consumer inflation data for the month of August, slated to be released tonight. The Japanese market Nikkei 225 surged 0.5% to hit its highest in 31 years, amid optimism that new PM will increase stimulus spending to boost the ailing economy. The index has risen for 8 of 10 sessions after Japanese PM Yoshihide Suga announced to step down from office by the end of this month. Sentiment was also boosted by hopes for an economic reopening as Japan is on track to reach the vaccination levels of the US and Europe. And South Korea's Kospi was the best performer in the region with over 1% in gains, followed by the Straits Times in Singapore, which rose nearly 0.5%. In a similar trend, Indonesia's Jakarta Composite traded higher by 0.45%, and Taiwan's weighted index rose 0.2% as well. China's Shanghai Composite also edged higher, while India's PSE Sensex gained 0.4% in the opening deals. Although bucking the trend, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index dropped 0.1%, and Thailand's SCT Composite fell 0.2% as well. Meanwhile, Wall Street ended higher in the overnight trades on Monday, snapping a 5-session losing streak as investors focused on potential corporate tax hikes and upcoming economic data. The US consumer inflation data will be released today, which will give a broad picture of the economy's progress ahead of the Federal Reserve's meeting next week. The S&P 500 rose 0.23%, while the Dow Jones ended at 0.67% higher as well. The Nasdaq closed marginally lower by 0.07%. Now it's time for a short break, but stay tuned because I'll be right back with more trending updates in the crypto space. Boarding pass, please. Hi, I'm Holly Shields, and I'll be your host for 𝐊𝐿𝐴𝐼𝐼 TV's new show, Travel Insights. Tune in to get the latest developments in the travel and tourism space, from updates on restrictions to travel guides to info about recreation and outdoor activities, or tour guides to the financials of the sector. Though the travel industry has been hit hard from the pandemic, there is still potential left for a revival on the back of economic upturn and COVID-safe travel measures. So if you want to know where the travel and tourism space is heading, dust off your passports, pack your bags, and watch Travel Insights every Monday exclusively on 𝐊𝐿𝐴𝐼 TV. Welcome back to the last trade. In the last segment of this show, let's have a quick look at the crypto market performance. While the major cryptocurrencies were trading in the green today ahead of US Consumer Price Index figures for August, scheduled later today. The The CPI data could speed up Federal Reserve's tapering of economic stimulus, which augurs well for riskier assets like cryptos. That being said, persistent concerns about regulatory scrutiny as well as environmental concerns limited gains. The price of Bitcoin, the world's largest crypto by market cap, was up 1%, and the most popular cryptocurrency had dropped over 13% in the last 1 week following a slew of negative news. On the other hand, Ether, the world's second largest crypto, was up 1% similarly, while it slumped 16% in the last 7 days. Meanwhile, Cardano, the third largest crypto, rose 1.6%, while Dogecoin prices also climbed nearly 1.5%. The price of XRP, Stellar, Tether, Uniswap and Binance Coin also flashed in green, and the price of Litecoin soared over 1% amid a fake press announcement, which claimed that Walmart's e-commerce stores would have a pay with Litecoin option. Walmart, however, confirmed that the press release was fake, saying that it was just about incorrect. Well, that is all for now in the last trade. My colleague Rachel will be here tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. with our first report on the pre-market open scenario. Stay safe and goodbye.